All right, CollectedCon, help me welcome to the stage. We've got Darcy from Kaleidos Creative. Give it up. Oh, man, they've been making some amazing toys. Come on in. We got The Beast is back. Come join us on stage. I don't know where everybody wants to sit. Sit where you'd like. All right. We've got Corey from Strangecat Toys. Give it up. Nice. All right, Travis from UVD Toys. Join us on stage. Thank you. And Truck from 100% Soft. Make some noise. It's a dumpster fire. That's right. Well, welcome, guys. How's everybody doing? Guys and gal. Darcy's, yes. Guys in general. Why don't we go down the line and Darcy, introduce yourself, talk a little bit about the brand, and then we can go down the line and have a quick introduction.
Okay. Hi. Ooh, that was louder than I thought it was going to be. I'm Darcy. I'm a designer and sculptor at Kaleidos Creative. We are a artist-owned and operated company that just started up just a couple years ago. So, yeah.
You guys are based out of?
Seattle.
Seattle.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Seattle. Very cool. Thank you.
My name is Chris Lee. My brand is The Beast is Back. And I'm a graphic designer, illustrator, and I've kind of been in the toy scene since 2005. And I've been recently, well, I guess the last 6 years, self-producing all my own vinyl toys and other things, objects, prints. Yeah.
I'm Corey from Strangecat Toys. I've been doing this 11 years now. We have a toy store down in Tampa, and then we also produce toys with artists.
I'm Travis Likens from UVD Toys. Some of you maybe know me from Urban Vinyl Daily, which was the blog we started in 2010, and this year celebrates 10 years creating designer toys under our brand, UVD Toys.
My name is Chuck Torrance. I own and operate 100% Soft. We're a collectibles company, and we're based here in Los Angeles, California, home of garbage.
Excellent. Let's keep with you, Truck. So, toy production. What was your start? How did you get producing toys? And what was that experience like?
Well, my background is as a graphic designer. And I would say in the mid-2000s, as the designer toy scene was getting a lot of recognition, I was attending a lot of art shows, trying to collect some toys, and I really wanted to make some toys. And my background is primarily in print and digital, and there was just always something tactile about having a sculpted figure that you could touch and put on your desk, and it seemed really attractive to me, but the barrier for entry just seemed impossible. And so one day, so I used to sit at coffee shops and read like toy blogs and stuff. I'm trying to think of the ones that I would even read, like High Fructose.
Oh yeah.
Stuff like that. And
shout to High Fructose.
Yeah, and there was an artist at the time named Amanda Vizell.
Oh, I love Amanda.
Who just had an art show, and I'd gone to that art show, and she had all kinds of toys, and she had huge sculptures, like life-size sculptures. It was at the Natural History Museum. It was really cool. And I was sitting at this coffee shop, and I was just God, this is like so cool. If only I could like meet someone like this who could just like show me how to do it. And I was sitting next to a buddy of mine he's one of those guys that like kind of has an opinion on everything, but he doesn't know anything. And he's like, oh yeah, you like toys? I was like, yeah, it's like so cool. I'd really like to. He's like, I know a toy designer. I was like, sure you do. And he's like, no, she works like next door. You want to come meet her? And I was like, sure. So we walked over, and it was Amanda Vizell's studio. And so he was a little bolder than I was, but he knocked on the door, and she answered it. And she's like, hello. And he's like, hey, this is my friend. He wants to make toys. And then he walked away. And I was like, hi. And I ended up talking with her for a little bit, and she was gracious enough to give me her email address. And I emailed her like this laundry list of questions about like how to make a toy, right? And she was very gracious, and she answered all of them. And then I sent her another list of like 1,000 questions, and she very politely replied to me and said, "Hey, I'm not gonna answer these, so why don't you just like come to my studio and hang out, and and you can be like my shop boy, and I'll show you like how I do it, and you can learn as it is." And I was like, okay. And so that's how I got my foundation in making toys.
Amazing. Big shout to Amanda. That's wonderful. Oh my gosh. Thank you. Travis?
Yeah, so my story kind of starts out as 2006, 7, 8 time frame. I was involved with a lot of streetwear brands. And if you know history of designer toys, streetwear was a big part of designer toys in the early days of the products. So that's where I kind of discovered designer toys. And then there was a show, I don't remember what it was called, but it was like a cake show. They made cakes, and somebody made a Dunny cake. And then I went and found the Dunnies, and I kind of went down the rabbit hole, and then started my blog, urbanvinyldaily.com. And we covered artists, toys, events, all kinds of stuff within the scene. And throughout that, we started doing events. And at those events, we'd have custom toys from different artists from all over the world. And eventually, artists started asking me, "Do you think you can make a toy?" And I was like, "No, but I know a lot of people, so I could probably figure it out." And so I just started asking everybody that I knew, that I trusted, to give me information, kind of learned on the job. And we kind of figured it all out, all the pieces, and then we did a Kickstarter in 2015, in which that's the beginning of UVD Toys, where we launched Luna, the first toy we ever did. And since then, we just continue to keep making more and more toys and more high-end art sculptures and different products. But that's kind of my precipice of how I got into toys.
Wonderful. I do want to also point out that the reason that all of us are here today is because of Travis and Corey, who's going to be giving his story next. So thank you guys for that. It's just wonderful. Thank you.
I kind of started in action figures and more pop culture stuff like NECA, and that was the stuff I was collecting. I started as a flipper type person, and then doing the trade shows. And I met my wife Yvette, and I went over to her apartment, and I saw a Joe Ledbetter Dunny. I'm like, "What the fuck is this?" Because I've never seen anything like this. And I just saw soulless in all of my action figures. I'm like, "These are dumb. These are for kids. I don't want this anymore. Let's get rid of this stuff." And then started just meeting artists over the years and making friends and those connections. And, buying from others is cool, but making your own stuff is cooler. So if you can figure it out, that's the best way to do it. And, we like working closely with artists, and that's what we're going to continue to do.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Corey. All right.
My designer toy journey started really on MySpace, but also directly with Joe Ledbetter. At the time, Joe was kind of a relatively unknown artist, and he was just doing kind of these really kind of underground, lowbrow type art shows. And we were friends on MySpace, and he messages me and says like, "Hey, I have this group show at this small gallery called Cannibal Flower in Hollywood." And at the time, I'm living in Sacramento, and I'm just trying to like navigate college life and trying to find my footing and voice as an illustrator and find my style. And at this point, I've already been exposed to Kid Robot. Maybe 2003, I was introduced to Kid Robot, so it was an entirely different company back then. Like all their figures were all imports. All these Hong Kong artists like Michael Lau and Jason Su and Eric So, and just like kind of before anyone really knew about things. And that really kind of set off a light bulb for me, like this is a style that really resonated with me and something I want to pursue. And so I started experimenting with character design, and for me, like for Truck, like Amanda Vassell was kind of the catalyst for him wanting to do something. For me, it was Pete Fowler, who was a UK artist, yeah. And when I saw his work in a magazine, I was like, this is what I want to make. And so from his characters that he developed. I developed my own, and back then it was called the Urbanites. And anyway, Joe Ledbetter. So I've been posting this work on MySpace, and Joe messages me saying he has this group show. Do I want to do it? I was like, yeah, I want to do this. Like, I don't have any reason to be in LA, and to do an art show in LA was like the biggest thing for me as a 23-year-old. And yeah, so I do this art show, and then when I'm there, I meet Nicole from Kid Robot.
Yep.
She's the
Nicole East.
Yeah, she was there. And I also meet this other guy. His name's Richard, but he had this company called Weedy Wheat Studios, and he liked the pieces and characters I was doing. He's like, hey, let's do something. And so, I mean, basically at that point, all my dreams came true. I was like, get to make toys. Someone wants to make a toy for me. At the time, I mean, the resources are so limited. Like, there was no Alibaba or anything. Like, just also the funding. Like, 23 years old, making a $10,000 toy is just like, seems like $1 million. So, so yeah, that's pretty much how it started. Like, in the very beginning, the short version at least.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
So I went from going to school for arts and animation, and then kind of stumbled into the toy world. Funko was my start, so it was pop culture, but it was before the boom of Funko. So 2013 time frame, someone reached out and they were like, "Do you want to work here?" And I was like, "Sure, I love to sculpt, but I have no idea about toys and collectibles at all." And so I kind of just was like, yeah, I could totally sculpt whatever you need me to sculpt. I could do toys, yes. And got the job from Ben Butcher and Sean Wilkinson, and came in, and I was their first in-house sculptor, so nobody there to kind of walk me through what it meant to make a toy. So I just knew how to sculpt, and I knew how to hand sculpt, and was very new to digital sculpting, but loved to sculpt. So it was a lot of learning on the job. So we initially started off with I would sculpt the thing, and then you kind of size it and you send it, and then hope to all that gets out that it came back correctly. And then thankfully had two other sculptors that came in later. One was Anna Concoran and Nina, I'm going to butcher her last name, Ijamaya, that they came in, and the three of us kind of changed what the production process looks like at Funko, because we wanted to know more about it. I love to sculpt, but I found out through Funko that I love learning how things work, and so we would break toys apart to see how people did it, and then we would build stuff, so cuts and keys. I didn't know anything about that. Anna had a buddy who did 3D printing, so we found out a little bit about that through there. But most of it was on the job, just learning the different types of plastics and how they work and the shrinkage rates and things like that. And then through the years, I ended up growing to being the first sculptor, to being the one that ran that whole sculpting department. And then in 2023, kind of got to the point where I was making and building other people's ideas and licenses, and it just felt like my whole identity was Funko. And so I met with my friend Anna, who worked at the company with me, and I was like, I think I'm gonna leave. I think I want to just explore who I am as an artist. And she was like, oh, thank God, I also want to leave. So her and I left the company and the kind of production pipeline, and then decided that we were just gonna go figure out what the heck we wanted to do as artists. And then Ben Butcher at the time also parted ways with Funko. And he had found out that her and I were doing this, and he was like, I think that I want to make my own company. Would you guys be interested in tagging along? And I was like, oh my gosh, yes, because he saw something in this person straight out of school and gave me so many opportunities through Funko that I got to tag along with him to see about building this, along with, there's 9 of us there, so. It's still very new, but it's been amazing to just get an opportunity to figure out who I am as an artist, and then also go into this world, because it's very different from the license and production side of things. So, yeah, that's my story.
Wonderful, thank you. And so, toy production, like most most of the panels that we've done so far, collaboration is a big part of the process, and whether it's collaborating with the artists or working with the different factories that are producing it. Tell us a little bit about collaboration and how that ties in with the toy production.
Yeah, so I had where I often worked with artists to build like their ideas and bring that to life, so I'm very familiar with that. We have 4 concept artists on our team or designers on our team, and then 3 sculptors, but we also do design. So it's either we take their ideas and we bring it to life, or we have our own ideas, but our team is so interwoven that like we'll be like, I think I want to do this thing, and then we'll get everyone else's thoughts and opinions on it, and which is like this real collaborative work environment. And then it kind of, I feel like the first idea you have isn't always the best idea, and so like after bouncing it around with other people and seeing their thoughts and opinions, it always gets so much better from there. We're actually partners with our factory that produces our product, so we have a very open conversation with our factory, and so we even have gone out and visited, and so seeing the whole pipeline that they do and the production that they have with it, and get to be a part of every step of the way. So like when we send the files over to them, and then every, like the 3D print, the molds, the paints that go through it, the box. We have a packaging artist as well, so we have where we work and try to figure out what we want this to look like. And then we have sales, we have our marketing team, so it's collaboration throughout it's like every step of the process that you wouldn't think about, it's all of them. We have a person and then you work together with it, so. Sorry.
Why is that happening? All right, cool, thank you very much. And on to you, how does collaboration work its way into your process?
It's a stark contrast from Kaleidos because I'm a solo artist. So for me, collaboration is mostly, I wouldn't even say collaborative. I mean, yes, collaborating with factories, but it's more, I guess that's the closest comparison I have, is just trying to build those relationships, either with, either nurturing one you have with a current vendor, or if you're approaching a new one. But I don't know. I don't know if that's true collaboration in the same way. I mean,
you get to do it all on your own.
Yeah, it's different. I mean, I do like to work with other artists, but it's not, with toy production specifically, it's definitely just me by myself at like 12:30 at night when the factories are, when they can talk. But yeah.
Wonderful. I know with Strangecat, it's quite a bit of collaboration. You're producing lots of toys, lots of different artists. Tell us a little bit about how collaboration works into your process. And
Yeah, so pretty much our whole thing is collaboration. When we first got into it, I heard what the toy deals were for artists, and I didn't really like it. I thought it was kind of icky that the company, sure, they're taking a risk on the artist's work, but if you believe it, you should kind of believe in the risk. And the artists were only getting maybe 10 toys, 20 toys to sell as APs, while the company, if they sell out, they may make thousands of dollars. I didn't feel comfortable with that, so ours is like fully collaboration, 50-50 like business deal. We're there to help with the factory and facilitate all that. The artist is there to art direct and make sure that what they want in the final product happens, and that's where we come in with the factory and make sure that all that is good. We ship everything to the customer. So yeah, collaboration very important for us. Yeah.
Thank you, Corey. Travis?
So for UVD, it's all about collaboration. Essentially, I kind of see UVD Toys as kind of a bolt-on way to work with an artist. With the most cases, we work with gallery artists or artists that are street artists, and we work with them to help them figure out ways to create other avenues of revenue stream. So I come in and I work with these artists. We sit down, build a partnership, and figure out how we're going to go from here to there, and figure out ways to create price points for artists across either toys or pens or different products, and essentially we're essentially like trusted partners, because I believe in their vision and I believe on how we're going to go from here to there. And sitting down with the artist, and a lot of times I'm looking at their pieces or their characters and I'm saying, what if we did it this way? I think it's more marketable if we do it this way, and we come up with a cool way to tell a story with the piece and create a piece of art that is like a print almost, in a way, where it's more like it's a piece of their art that you can have in your home, and treat it as a piece of art versus, say, just like a little tiny toy or a blind box. Usually I'm building bigger pieces that are more artistic, higher price point items. So the story is a part of what we do, and that collaboration is building that plan throughout and coming up with the best way to market and sell that product.
Excellent, thank you. And Truck, so, I mean, collaboration I know has been a big part of your work, from whether you're working with Marvel or using your own intellectual property with Dumpster Fire, and then working with artists like, the Wizard of Barge or Daniel Danger or whoever that might be. Tell us a little bit about how collaboration ties into those aspects as well.
Well, being a working artist can be a miserable, lonely existence. And I can find myself sitting in my studio just talking to myself, and the only avenue that these ideas are going through are like, it's a U-turn directly back into my own brain. And one of the great things about what I've been able to do over the past few years is get outside of that a little bit and be able to see what other people can bring to the ideas that I already have, whether that's from my 3D sculptor who helps me develop all of our toys, whether it's a full figure or a blind box. I'm lucky to have a 3D sculptor that I've worked with for I think 5 or 6 years that has a history in toy production. And so if I bring him a concept, and like we basically work over Zoom, and I'll watch him sculpt in real time, because I'm not a sculptor, and I've tried to sculpt. I have like very remedial 3D sculpting skills, and when I first started out, I tried doing wood sculpting, I tried doing resin casting, and very quickly I was like, I am not very good at this. There are other people that are better. How can I utilize those people to realize the vision that I have? And so I'll work with that 3D sculptor, and I'll bring him an idea, and he'll be like, that's pretty good, but like what, for production, what if we did something like this? And then that sort of opens up the range a little bit more possibilities. And so from that stage of the process, all the way to working with a factory and seeing what they have available, because some of the ideas I brought to my factories that are fully sculpted, fully realized, fully 3D printed ideas, you'll give to a factory and they're like, like that might not work, or that will cost $80 a unit, and that's not what I'm looking for. And so there's always a sense of collaboration for me in at the foundation level. The great thing about working with other artists is that, for instance, with the Dumpster Fire, once that got a little bit of heat and we had kind of a built-in audience for that, then I really wanted to roll my sleeves up and kind of get a little crazy with it, which is when I started thinking about doing artist collaborations. And you brought up like Daniel Danger. Daniel Danger is like a really good example of that, because if you've ever seen his artwork, he's primarily a poster artist, and he does like big landscapes that are hyper detailed and usually monochromatic. And so he's a good friend of mine, and so I came to him and I was like, hey, I was thinking about doing like a Dumpster Fire collaboration. Like, would you be interested in doing that? He's like, yeah, great. And he's like, what kind of parameters do I have to work with? I was like, well, I was just kind of looking for you to like draw a dumpster fire in your style, and then we can see how that would look in 3D. He's like, okay, cool. And then a few weeks went by, and he's like, okay, so I didn't do that, and here's the concept that I have. And he had like reimagined the whole thing. From being like your standard dumpster fire to turning it into a house that was in his style, in the shape of a dumpster fire with a flame.
Like more like wood panels.
Yeah, like wood paneling. It's a very kind of Evil Dead vibes.
Yeah.
And it was not what I wanted, but it looked incredible. And it wasn't something I'd ever thought of.
Yeah, one of Daniel's things too is these like kind of ghosts that are
the
floating above
figures.
the houses, and it's inside the flame.
Yeah, it's in a resin flame.
Yeah. Was that one of the first kind of like ventures out from just your work, or?
If it wasn't the first, it was one of the first.
Yeah.
But it was incredible because that is part of the fun of being able to collaborate as an artist with another artist, is that they're always going to bring something to the table that you've never really thought of. Similarly, when Chris and I worked together, I had been bothering him for a while about maybe like doing some sort of dumpster fire collaboration, and I really loved his beetle, the rhino beetle that he had done, and I thought that would be a really cool thing to do. And similarly, when he came back to me with his concept, he had reimagined the entire toy as like a stump. And so now the dumpster has gone from being a dumpster fire to a house to now a wooden stump that has a beautiful, how would you describe the flame?
It's like a bouquet of like tropical plants.
Yeah. And then we put the beetle on top of that, and it was incredible. And so then Chris and my sculptor and I, we would sit in Zoom sessions and like art direct my sculptor just to get it precise, because if you've ever worked with Chris Lee, you know that everything he does is precise and has to be exactly to specs. And so, but it was really, it's really incredible because you put that stuff out there, and you get to see people react to it in a way that you would just kind of never imagined, you know. And so I'm always open to collaboration. It brings something really fantastic creatively.
Awesome, wonderful. Let's come back down here to you and tell us about something that you've produced recently, something you maybe have for sale at your booth, or something that is you'd like to talk about.
Something that I personally produced, I'm a little obsessed with clowns, and I know that doesn't go well with everybody, but I did a Mad Tea Party series, which is based on those like old vintage porcelain clown dolls, the ones that are terrifying and just sit on your shelves. They're great. Those ones with a collab, like kind of cross with the Alice in Wonderland theme, just because I also love that. So I got to just be like, what are 2 things that are my favorite things that I wanted to combine, which is just like a passion project. But things that our company have that are new produced, we did a collaboration with Jorge Gutierrez, and I probably butchered that, so I apologize, and his wife Sandra. They are the Machito, Super Machito, and the Rumbarita, and then we did a soccer version of her. They are like a Sports Mexico variation of these giant figures that are based off of old retro luchador figures.
Yeah.
That Jorge was like, I really want to make sure that we can make this thing, and it has to be the same size and same specs as what he remembered growing up as a kid. Even with we did have a fabric cape on it as well. And then Sandra is like, it has to be beautiful, this like lovely lady figure, because that's just her go-through, and it has just wonderful proportions. And so both of them want to do sports themes. So we did these big 12 and I believe 7-inch figures that I did not personally sculpt them, but Big Cat, one of our artists, and then Anna, one of our other artists, both got to work and partner with them to create those. And so those are available.
Turned out awesome.
They're
They
so
turned
good.
out really great. I love them.
Capturing their style that they have, which thankfully they've done movies, so they're familiar with 3D, but capturing some of the style of their figures. I got to work with Jorge on, we have a blind box series, the Super Machitos, and some of the proportions, he drew them, and you're like, how does that translate into 2D, like from 2D to 3D? And you just kind of make it, and then you send it to him, and then he sends it back. We don't do a Zoom call, though. That one's kind of probably smarter on the moment, but to give them time to just do draw-overs, we just send them images. And so then he would be like, not like that, do it like this. He was like, okay, I'll try again. And bringing those ideas to life from 2D to 3D is really amazing. So yeah,
They really
those are
turned out.
available.
They really turned out awesome. Make sure you guys, if you haven't already, go check those out for sure. Right? Maybe keep going down the line here.
All the sculpts I work on with my sculptor friends, who also to piggyback off what Truck said, I do collaborate with them, and that's probably the only other artist I work with closely on like day-to-day basis, just on all the ideas I'm developing. But all the pieces I put out are just more or less extensions of my like deepest interests. So it's all things other people like, apparently, too, like fish and monsters and yokai and just robots, dinosaurs, and just all filtered through my own lens. But I'm working on a series of soft vinyl fish, and it's one of the things that's like, oh, why are you making soft vinyl fish? It's because I never saw any soft vinyl fish.
I like
And
it.
so I was problem solving ways to figure out how they can be pulled from a mold, and I found a shape that works and a shape that also works with my style, and that just opened up a lot of opportunities to just explore some really weird ideas, and I'm hand painting them, and I'm just having a lot of fun doing that.
Wonderful. Thank you. Corey?
Yeah,
Definitely want to hear about that sad salesman. That's like the
we
man.
put out a ton of toys today or this weekend. We like to launch everything at once for whatever reason and make it complicated and very expensive for everybody. Yeah, the Sky Guy with Sad Salesman is probably the coolest thing we've ever made. And
Ever. It's perfect.
Not to knock any of the other toys we've made with artists, but yeah, that Sky Guy just came out killer, and it's gone viral, and Eric had to update his Instagram profile to match it, just so everybody knows that it's him, I guess.
And there's like the sushi, the slug or snail sushi.
The sushi snails, yeah.
Yes.
It's our first blind box series, also with Sad Salesman. So yeah, we're getting into the blind box space, and hopefully a lot more this year. We also launched the Bunny Rider with Tara McPherson. I don't know if
I
you know
love
of
that
her.
one. Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, it's good.
Very good. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, just tons of toys coming out.
Yeah. Well, they've all looked great. Great work. Good.
I'm a big fan of street art, contemporary art, so a lot of my toys are based in that world. So we have an upcoming release that's about to come out that is a Doze Green. Many of you may know him. He's one of the early designer toy artists that had a lot of releases. Kind of went away for a while, and we're bringing back a Resin Art Multiple. So the current one we're working on is going to be a bone colorway. And as Truck was mentioning, trying to reduce cost, most of my things are the opposite. How expensive can we make this thing to make it look exactly like the art? So his pieces often feature very complex positioning and very complex angles and things that make it very difficult to cast. So it is finding unique ways to include things like magnets inside of them so that we don't have to sacrifice the sculpt in order to sacrifice the design in order to make a moldable sculpt. So this piece actually is about to come out here in a couple of weeks, but there's a funny story with it, and I want to add it for toy production because in toy production you never know what can happen. And this piece actually was just on a ship that came into Long Beach, and it had been in some sort of typhoon across the pier. 32 containers were dumped into the ocean. And I guess as they're trying to fix that, it's like a game of Jenga. You move one, all the other ones might fall down. So it took them about 3 weeks to sort through everything. And so for 3 weeks, I'm waiting to find out if my container is one of the ones that's on the bottom of the ocean, right? And like, there's a lot of product in this container. So it's like, you know, I'm kind of on the edge for about 3 weeks. Luckily, it was found, and they are here now. But like, toy production is one of those things where you just have to be ready for the unexpected because you can get, think everything is going fine, and then your container's in the bottom of the ocean, right? So it's not easy. I guess it may sound easy the way some of us have talked about it because we're just like, oh, we did this and we did that, and we found out from this guy and did that and this, and then we got a toy. But there's all kinds of pitfalls along the way that you can run into.
And you have that new one with Robin as well?
Yes, I have a new piece released this week at the booth with Miss Robin Eisenberg. It's called Flower Girl. It is a purple colorway of her piece, and it's a very cool, amazing little sculpture that sits on a flower, and we did a really cool thing with balance to keep it from falling over, but it looks like it's floating on the, when it's sitting on your shelf, so it's really, really cool.
Awesome, thank you. All right, Truck?
Yes.
Something that you've been working on, producing lately, something you want to promote.
We have our new Wizard of Barge dumpster fire at our booth. Dakota Cates makes art under the name Wizard of Barge. She's one of my favorite artists. I've been a long admirer of his work, and we started talking together about a year and a half ago about doing some toys together. He had done one toy on his own, but he got really excited about the idea of being able to explore that a little further, and so we came out with a goblin version of the dumpster fire about 6 months ago, and people really liked that. He really liked that. I had a lot of fun with it, and so we came out with a variant of it that's at our booth this weekend, which is great. And I feel your pain about the container. About 5 years ago, I had a container drop into the ocean, and my dad, I remember he sent me a screenshot of like the LA Times or something that had a photo of containers like tipping over. He's like, "Hey man, I hope this never happens to you." And it was a photo of the ship that my container was on.
Oh my God.
But my hope is that much like the Garfield phone, is that my dumpster fires will be coming to shore for decades to come.
They'll be floating.
Yes.
They'll be making their way. Oh, terrifying and wonderful to share. Thank you.
Indeed.
Maybe this is a chance, if there's any questions in the audience, raise your hand and maybe come up here to the front and I can pass you the microphone. And if you're not ready for that yet, do any of you have questions for each other, which has been a really fun part of the panel so far, because you guys know it more than anyone else. So if there's questions you have for each other, even maybe a conversation you've had in the last little while that you think might make for fun conversation on stage, is there anything? Yeah? Yes? Yes, come on up. Hey, welcome. Thank you. What's your name?
I guess this might be more for Strangecat and UVD Toys, but when you work with a lot of artists, how do you go about selecting the ones that you're like, okay, we for sure will have a good collaboration versus somebody that you're like, maybe this is not a good match for us?
For me, I like to work with friends. I feel like it makes the job a lot easier. So coming to these events and other events and having art shows and going to art shows and meeting people face to face usually gives me a good inkling of, okay, I think we can work well together. But also, it doesn't always have to be the case. Just seeing work that people are really after, like someone is consistent. Like I always tell artists, you're ready for production when you can make 20 or 30 of something like maybe resin casting, and you're constantly selling out, and you can't keep up with it on your own. That's kind of when I think it's time for me to step in and let's work together and let's make something. You know, I say at mass, but we make 50 to 100, sometimes 300 of something.
So for me, I do work with a number of people that are my friends, but I also tend to be a person that's like seeking out art. So like what I typically am looking for is something that interests me. Like I'd be interested in having this thing. It doesn't exist. How do I make it? And then I start communicating with that artist and really kind to try to figure out how we can develop that plan to market, sell, and create a new revenue stream for that artist. That, you know, to serve their fans in a new way. I'm also I don't know, Corey kind of calls me like, you're always resurrecting the old guys. Like, so like I tend to enjoy a lot of the artists that were making things when I first discovered designer toys, and trying to figure out new and cool ways and utilizing modern technology to either update designs or make them, make them look more like what they're supposed to look like when I see it on their 2D artwork. So I do take, like Corey, I meet people at these shows and I do find cool and interesting things and then figure out ways to work with people like that as well. But yeah, I would say most of the stuff is like between friends and discovering new artists that I find either on Instagram or shows like this, and then figuring out ways to make things with them. So
excellent, great question, thank you. If there's anyone else, come on up. I do want to say, yeah, come on up. Yeah, if there's anyone else,
chime in?
yes, please. That's what I was going to say. If there's anything else about where you decide on what you want to produce or who to collaborate with as well.
Sorry to answer the other question. We do have where we partnered with Jorge and Sandra, and then we also did a Kim Joy collection. But we've had other collabs that we've been looking into for our company, just because similar to us, how we were like, we just want to see what it means to be an artist and to create our own stuff and bring that to life. I think that it matters a lot to our company and kind of our brand that we're trying to build to help kind of be a space for that for other artists as well. So we have had where it's mostly people that we've either are friends with or ran into, but we've also had where we've gone to these type of events and we've seen them, or other people have come and seen what we're doing, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is so cool what you guys have created. How do I do this? And so if anyone wants to reach out through us, we are still a small company, so we're still getting our feet under us, but we would love to be a part of helping bring stuff to life. So definitely feel free to reach out to us.
Any thoughts on what you decide to produce or how you decide what to produce? I mean, you guys both get to just pick your own adventure.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a mixture of trying to see what else you can do with a concept, especially after, working with some of the same characters year after year after year, and trying to see what you can do to make something fresh. But like my guiding light is usually if it makes me laugh or makes me happy, and usually like I will have some sort of harebrained idea, and it's not uncommon of me to like text that to Chris or show my wife and get like gauge their reactions, and sometimes that helps me mold that idea in the future, and sometimes I just kind of go my own way with it. But like last year I put out we put out a mystery box series called Pizza Rats After Dark, which are a bunch of sexy pizza rats and suggestive poses on pizza. And I showed that to my wife, and she's like, what are you doing? And then I remember she showed it to people at a dinner party, and they're like, who would buy this? And I was like, I gotta go. But I put that out, and it did really well because I know there's other psychos out there that want to see sexy pizzas.
It passed
sexy
your laugh
pizza
test.
rats.
It made you
exactly.
laugh. You knew it was gonna
Yes, exactly.
Hi, my name's Darissa. I was wondering, along with like the design elements, how do you make sure your designs stay within your like designated like per unit rates? And also, how do you negotiate rates with your manufacturers?
Did you guys all hear the question? So how do you decide how many to make of a toy, and then how do you negotiate the production cost with the manufacturers?
While maintaining your design quality?
That's a very good toy production question. I applaud this. This is excellent.
Yeah, so somebody told me when I first started doing this, if you sell out of something, you look like an idiot because you didn't make enough. And if you make more because you think you're not going to be able to sell out, or you're going to sell out, you'll make too many, and then you'll also look like an idiot. So it's hard to get that right. Finding the right number of pieces to make is a very challenging situation, because you always, if you make a certain amount and you sell through them all, you always feel like you left something on the table, right? But it's a dangerous game, because if you make more, then you're stuck with stock.
Some
right?
will be left on the table.
Yeah, the actual stacks of toys. Yeah. So it is kind of a dangerous thing. It really is a lot of times a gut feel. You kind of feel like, okay, I think your market, you look at your artists, like what they're selling through, back to Corey, what Corey was saying, somebody's selling through 30 pieces they're making on their own. There's probably a chance with Corey they could jump to 50, maybe 100, because they'll get an extra bump out of the marketing and all that stuff from Corey. So it is kind of just like a little bit of a gut feel. But as far as like negotiating with the factory, it's often getting quotes, like looking at what the numbers are coming back at, and figuring out what you're willing to live with, and then asking questions like, okay, what's the cost driver here? What can I do to reduce those costs by changing the sculpt or increasing quantities? Maybe you'll get the unit cost down because you're spreading that across the mold costs across more units. It's really kind of just like crunching numbers at that point and figuring out what you're comfortable with. And then the always magic question of, what can I sell this for? That's always like a magic question that is still like, you're looking at, in my case, I'm looking at artists' original work, their prints, figuring out where the toy or art multiple fits into their pricing scales, and then kind of guessing what we can sell it for based on what we cost, and figuring out the retail, wholesale costs that we're going to be able to sell that at. So, and then was the last question about timelines? Was that the?
Oh, sorry. It was about how you like manage like per unit cost designs with like the aesthetic part. And I'm also curious on how that factors into blind boxes, because with each different design, each has like different individual costs. I'm just curious.
I will let Corey take the question on the blind boxes.
Oh, well, I just started, so I'm going to give it to Chuck on that. But
Do blind boxes.
yeah.
Yeah, we do a lot of blind boxes. I mean, it's very similar, but it's more characters. And so it's definitely the different materials that you use, the design that you have, how intricate it is will play a huge part in it. So like if you have to break off a bunch of pieces that will include more mold costing. And so if you're trying to capture the design, oftentimes at 3D we will try to look at like where we can make sure that it can be molded in a way to reduce how many costs for mold, but keep the design. Different materials too, so like what are you wanting this to be cast in, like different treatments that you want to have, those can always incur different costs. And so like if you have a blind box series, you're thinking about that for every character that you're building, because it's going to be the whole thing is going to come to the unit cost. And so usually we do have where for us we will make more to allow for the cost of all of the characters, but they will have for each character you get the mold cost, each character you get the line tooling cost, each character you get the box, the packaging, everything. And so we will take into all of that into consideration, as well as working with our factory to be like their suggestions on where we can take things versus us wanting to make sure that we're keeping the look and feel and everything there all the way through the production. Hopefully that helped.
Excellent. Thank you. Great question. Appreciate that. Yeah.
I guess just wanted to add my perspective, just being a solo artist and trying to determine production numbers for myself. It's well, for toy production in general, I never recommend anyone to just jump into toy production. And for me, even though I've sold a lot of different designs and mass-produced things, I always start small, and I test designs either by doing hand-painted 3D runs to see if just to gauge response, to see how people react to this new idea I have. And then from there I can decide if I do make this thing, maybe I can make 200, and that's enough. So it's really kind of looking at how people react to your work, and then looking at what people buy from you, and then deciding from there how you want to invest in kind of this next stage, which is mass production. So yeah, there's a lot of factors.
Great question. It sounds like we kind of hit on a topic I like to do towards the end as well, a little bit of advice. So we've heard advice now. Great question that led us down there. Maybe we could get a little bit of advice, Corey, and then Truck, we could hear some advice that you would give on those things, and then we can get close to wrapping that up.
Yeah, for the question, regarding like you're negotiating the prices and stuff with the factory, there's almost no negotiation really. Like they just say this is the price, but what I wouldn't pull it all the time, but I've said, oh, well, this other factory said they'll do it for $3 cheaper per unit, and they're like, oh, well, we'll do that. I've never had them say we can't do that, so if it's that's your choice between making it or not, you can always try that. And I don't put a ton into packaging unless it's absolutely necessary. Almost all of our resin toys are just drawstring bags, makes your shipping a lot cheaper. That kind of stuff, you can cut costs back.
Excellent.
And the question is advice on?
Yeah, it was a bit about figuring out the cost and deciding on production, but I think each of you have given a bit of advice with that.
Sure.
And so I think it's a great way to, we can get close to the end and talk about advice that you might give to people trying to consider these things in toy production mindset. Sure.
Well, when producing a toy, the one bit of advice I would give is that there's a lot of hidden costs. There's a lot of unknowable costs that, when I have a drawing, back when I started, when I had a drawing on a piece of paper and I thought this might look like a cool toy, there is a laundry list of things that you have to do from that drawing to getting that figure in your hand in a package. And I asked a lot of questions. I both from people like Chris or a lot of the other independent artists that I've known. But in going to a factory, they're going to come back to, like, if you have a design of a toy and you've managed to sculpt a 3D version of that, and you have a 3D file that you then give to a factory, the first thing they're going to ask you is, how many do you want to make? I don't know, you know, and then they might come back to you and say, well, our minimum is 500 units. And you go, okay, can I sell 500 units? and then you have to start thinking to yourself, well, what would happen if I did get 500 units? What would happen if and then you might go back to them and go, how about you do 250 instead? And they go, okay, sure, that'll be $2 more expensive per unit. And so then you start thinking, well, how much can I actually sell this for? Because the last thing I want are like boxes and boxes and boxes of toys just sitting in your house. Like one of the very first toys I produced was like a plush. It was just like a simple plush. It was like a 5-inch tall plush toy. And I ordered this is like 10 years ago. I ordered 500 of those, and then I got a call one day that was, hey, we have a pallet delivery. Where do you want that to go? And I was looking around my living room, and I was like, you can bring it here. And so then my girlfriend at the time came home to our living room just filled with boxes of plush toys. So you can imagine how that went over. In doing toy production now, it's all in the details, and I do something where I make a pro forma for each release that we're doing that has the per unit cost. It calculates the cost per unit per quantity for each toy. There's the freight cost in it. There's the tariff cost that's in it. There's every single cost that's associated with that toy, and then it calculates essentially what my ROI is going to be if I actually sell a certain amount of those toys. So I can have a pretty good realistic look at like what it actually means to produce this thing, because it costs a lot of money. And that's the thing for independent designers starting out, is that this isn't like an inexpensive thing to get into. And so Chris's advice of like starting small is something that I always took to heart too. Like the first toy I did was a resin series of like 5 toys. And that was just to see if people liked it, you know? So my advice is start small and see what happens.
Wonderful. Well, thank you guys. Of course, big thanks to you guys for putting this all together and getting us all together to celebrate toys. Appreciate you guys and all for joining us here on stage. Let's give them one more big round of applause. I mean, give yourselves a round of applause. Thanks for joining us for the panel. Thank you so much. Up next, we are doing a screening of Sticker Movie, so stick around, and we are going to be starting that very soon. Thank you all so much. Woo!